This is ASMR. Tingle, 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 tingle,
ASMR can be used as a form of relaxation.
ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. It reminds me of when my mom used to rub my back or my friends used to play with my hair, how it gave me those goosebumps, which are called tingles, 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 tingles. And that's what ASMR is, but through a screen. Bye.
The community around ASMR is one of the most interesting, sensitive and friendly online communities that I've seen.
Hello there. ASMR is a term used for creating euphoric sensations to a viewer to make them feel relaxed, to feel tired and fall asleep, or just feel good. The videos are created to connect with a person wherever they are on the globe, and it promotes good feelings and well-being.
ASMR is a rain of tingles. It's a wind that calms you. ASMR is music with whispering notes. You're calm and relaxed. Time to sleep.
What is ASMR? Well, you could say it's literally a response that your body gets when it hears a pleasurable sound, but it's actually kind of a drug. It doesn't do any damage to your body, but you do get an addiction, so you gotta be careful with it.
ASMR is the tingle sensation felt by your body. And I find it best triggered when it's not intentional, especially in movies. So I made my own ones. And cut.
Nice music, right? Welcome to Boxen. This is our space for radical, propositional projects around architecture and design. And this, as you may have already sussed out, is one of the most radical and propositional that we have done so far. So, we're going to take you around the show now. We hope that you're a little bit more au fait with what ASMR is or why it's important. And we're going to take you around as if we would a visitor. And one thing we're going to ask visitors to do when we open the exhibition is to put on a robe. So I'm going to put on a robe, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to introduce you to my colleague, Justina.
Hi, James.
Hello.
So, hi, everyone. My name is Justina. And the reason why I am here tonight is because we can't all be here physically, so I am basically going to be acting as a stand-in for all of you. So, as you might have noticed by now, there's a chat window next to your screen. And what we'd like you to do is to ask your questions directly in this chat, and we'll answer them either there, or I am going to pick up some of your questions, and I'm going to ask them directly to James in this digital guided tour. So, the question is really, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well,
Are you
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go inside.
The other thing we're asking visitors to do is take off their shoes. And you'll kind of see why that's the case when we step inside. So take off these shoes. Jennifer Allen is a really important figure in the ASMR world and in the history of ASMR. And we want to start by showing you an amazing object that she sent us, and that's going to be in the exhibition. And that's the first ever Wikipedia article about ASMR. So maybe we can bring that up to the screen while we go in. Because in that Wikipedia article, you see the very beginnings of ASMR. You see that I'm not expecting you to read it, by the way, it's almost illegible, but you can see that in that world, there was something going on. And for something that was born on the internet, being legitimized as part of Wikipedia, having a Wikipedia article was really, really important. We can take it off now. I think it's not so fun to see, because we're now on this enormous pillow. And yeah, it's super comfy, by the way. It's super, super comfy. We're going to spend some time on it here throughout the next 30 minutes. And we're going to start, I believe, with a work featuring Björk. Björk, the Icelandic pop singer. In 1988, Björk was part of a band called the Sugar Cubes. And there was a documentary made about this band. And you may have seen this film before, because it's gone viral over certain video platforms over the last few years. It's Björk taking apart a TV set and explaining how a TV works. And it's not just any TV set, it's a TV set from the 1980s. So it's a cathode ray tube TV set, one of the big old boxy ones. Why don't we first just take a look at it?
Hello. It is Christmas time and I'm sitting here by my TV. I've been watching it very much lately because I'm on a holiday and I've been seeing all those programs about all sorts of things. About Icelandics being very happy about Christmas, very gay and also very serious and spiritual, and also seeing Icelandic comic people making jokes, which they are very good at. But now I'm curious. I've switched the TV off, and now I want to see how it operates, how it can put me into all those weird situations. So it's about time.
You kind of want to see what's in that TV, don't you? Because I really recommend that you find that video and watch it, or find this documentary, or come to the exhibition when it's open again, hopefully. But what happens in that film is Björk, full of empathy, Björk traces her line around the inside circuits of a television set. She describes it as being like a little city. Her voice quietens, and this is really a work of unintentional ASMR. And this exhibition is organized around a number of themes. It's an attempt for us to try to add some structure to a world that's in a state of constant definition and redefinition. It's very hard to say what ASMR was a year ago. It's impossible to say what ASMR as a cultural movement will be in a year's time. But in the vein of unintentional ASMR, I just want to show you another work, a work that's called The Lost Art of Paste Up. It was made by Anthony Wilkes for the London Review of Books. The London Review of Books is, I think, a 40-year-old periodical run out of London, as you'd assume, looking at literary reviews, publishing literary reviews. Anthony Wilkes made a film late last year called The Lost Art of Paste Up, which starts to look at a lost art. Paste up. I had to Google it myself. Paste up in the 1980s and earlier was the art of creating a newspaper spread. It was the art of laying out the individual words, of sending it to the editor, of it coming back with corrections, and then the meticulous task of moving words and letters to the left or the right, justifying them. In this film, Bryony Dalefield, who's been working at the London Review of Books for a long time, she's now a desktop publisher there, shows us exactly how this was done. Let's take a look.
My name is Bryony Dalefield and I've worked for the LRB not continuously but pretty near since 1982, and I do paste up. Paste up, which is pleasingly still in the vocabulary in the digital age, was literally cutting up copy and pasting it onto a board so it could be sent to the printers and photographed for printing. Now all this is done on the computer, but we thought it'd be a challenge to go back and see what that process was like back in the 80s, if I could still do it, using the old fonts and layout, but this time using an article that's going to be used in the current edition.
Oh yeah, sorry, I get a little bit. This is something that actually kind of triggers my very, very intense sense of relaxation. Justina has already planted herself on the kilometre-long pillow. And I say kilometre-long, I should just mention that this has been designed by ETA Architects, an amazing group of architects, so I recommend you check out their website. They've gone all out with this exhibition design and are currently in some form of lockdown in Riga, in Latvia. But why don't we make the most of their pillow right now? And I'll join you, Justina, because you might have some questions.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm so comfortable. I really highly recommend the sofa. It's so nice, right?
It's so comfortable.
Yeah.
If you're watching ETA, it's incredibly comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. We actually have some really exciting questions for you about unintentional ASMR. And the question that pops out the most is perhaps, how does one decide what is unintentional ASMR?
It's a very, very good question.
Right?
Okay, well, the simplest answer to that is to say intentional ASMR is something that has been created by an ASMR artist or by anyone really, any creative within that field, with the intention of triggering an autonomous sensory meridian response. Unintentional ASMR is therefore the opposite. It's a work that triggers an autonomous sensory meridian response, but was not necessarily created with that intent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but so that basically means that I could have accidentally been creating ASMR works without even knowing if they like trigger you, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the question is, maybe it has to have an audience.
Are you saying I don't have an audience?
No, I say that you could have an audience if you started your own channel.
Oh, well.
We should work on that, Justina.
Yeah.
I feel like you've got it in you.
Yeah, well, speaking of unintentional ASMR, something that's very opposite to unintentional ASMR is definitely ASMR advertising, right?
Exactly.
Which is highly intentional, I would say.
Absolutely.
And we have some exciting works about that, right?
Absolutely. Why don't we take a look? It's going to take me a little bit of time to clamber off, partly because it's so comfortable.
It's quite difficult, actually.
While we're walking, we can actually take a look at the incredible TV chandeliers that ETA have designed for this exhibition. They're all thematically structured, and they all feature these absolutely bizarre, rather unsettling, but very beautiful hands. If I just lift a headphone off here. I mean, we only saw these being made from a distance, and when they arrived in Stockholm, we were looking at them for hours. And incidentally, this is the work that we want to look at, the work that you were describing, Justina.
Yeah.
We have a theme with 2 works in which look at ASMR and advertisement. Now, like any trend, I mean, it's difficult to know sometimes whether ASMR is a format or more of a cultural movement, or maybe it's both at the same time and more. But advertisement seems to creep its way into everything. Now, there are many, many advertisements that exploit or use or take advantage of the ASMR format, which could be whispering or soft, close sounds or things like that. And in this exhibition, we have 2 works, one by Apple, but one by here, IKEA USA, that start to look at ASMR, exploit it for a form of advertisement, but do it really, really well. So in this piece here, which was made for IKEA USA's back-to-school range, we see a protagonist. We don't see their face, but we see their hands, and we hear their soft voice as they caress sheets, as they look at things that you can buy, essentially, as part of the back-to-school range last year or the year before in IKEA. Why don't we take a quick look at this?
Welcome to IKEA ASMR, or as we like to call it, Oddly IKEA. Today we're showing you how you can make your perfect college dorm room with IKEA's many perfect solutions.
What's next?
Questions.
A relaxing place to end a stressful day of being a student. Let's start with making the perfect bed. Look at how well the sheets fit over a typical dorm room mattress. This is an Ulvide sheet set, which includes the fitted sheet that you see here, a flat sheet, and 1 pillowcase, for only $29.99. and listen to how nice it sounds as it's smoothed out.
So I have a question for you, James.
Okay, yeah.
I
go.
actually have a really, really good question for you
Yeah.
about advertisement in ASMR.
Yeah.
And it reads like this. So I read that many ASMR artists like to keep the ASMR collective quite small. Is there a fear that the commercialism is counterproductive?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether the ASMR community... I don't know whether that's true in the sense that the ASMR community is this very, very friendly, very, very welcoming place, and it's ever expanding. But there is certainly a community. And in that community, yeah, that question raises quite an interesting one in the sense that that community has maybe two different types of ASMR artists. Some who have very, very big followings, upwards of 1 million or 2 million subscribers on YouTube, for example, who are making money from this. They have very, very strong and quite powerful brands, actually. And then there are other types of ASMR artists who maybe do not have the same following, also there's some exceptions to that, who really don't want to put advertisement in their YouTube videos, for example. Why don't they want to put advertisement? Well, if you imagine within the framework of YouTube, an advertisement is either a card that pops up or it's a full frame ad that pops up halfway through. And that's completely antithetical to the point of an ASMR
video. It ruins
video.
your experience as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine falling asleep and half an hour into a video suddenly having an advert for, God knows what.
It's quite a brutal awakening, isn't it?
It's a brutal awakening. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, we have some very smart viewers, I think. Well, speaking of something entirely different, I have a work in this exhibition that is my personal favorite.
Oh,
I
yeah,
really
your
want,
favorite.
yeah, my favorite, because it's really, really, really cute. I think we should go and watch it right now.
Let's go there.
Yeah.
So on the way, actually, we can stop and look at these objects, which are very, very, very beautiful, very strange, made by 3DO Sound, an American microphone company. This, if you've watched ASMR before, you may have come across this. It's a binaural microphone, binaural meaning literally 2 ears. And it records the left and the right channels separately. And that's why in a lot of ASMR videos, you can hear this sort of three-dimensional sound around your head. You can feel the left ear moving to the right ear. You can hear the brushing or the whispering. And 3DIO Sound have created a line of microphones that also, interestingly, are shaped like human ears. This is part of an interesting trend that we look at in some level in the exhibition, which is really about how technology starts to look like humans.
Exactly.
Human ears.
Quite uncanny, right?
Human ears, and we will move on to something later where you start to see this take place. We've actually tried this out. Justina and I were making the audio guide for the exhibition, and we were brushing into this 3DO microphone. We were eating peaches in it. It's amazing, the sound. It's got a very natural sound, so I see why ASMR artists use it. But that was a brief stop because you want to see Shoe and Tree,
Yeah, I really
don't
want to
you?
see Shoe and Tree.
Here's Shoe and Tree. Should we just take a minute to enjoy this?
Oh, that's so cute.
Okay, a brief thing about Shoe and Tree, because we've now entered into another TV chandelier, which looks at intentional ASMR. Now, intentional ASMR is probably best described by what you saw if you were at the very start of this stream. You saw the ASMR definitions by ASMR artists themselves. Now, this is really fundamental intentional ASMR. Shoe and Tree's work is kind of on the boundary a little bit, but Shoe and Tree is a dog grooming service. They look after dogs, you drop them off, they massage them, they cut them, they come in looking super scruffy, they leave looking super beautiful, maybe less cute, more cute, I don't know, it's up to you. And they film the process with such precision, with such care to the sound, and there's also something deeply, deeply calming about looking at cute puppies. Why don't we take a look? It's good, right?
Great. Oh, I love that. I love this video so much. So self-care, isn't it?
Self-care, wellness. Justina's listening.
Oh, this is so cute. Like to can watch it for the rest of my life.
Are there any more questions?
There are a lot of questions, and this one's actually really interesting. Why is everyone so obsessed with self-care?
You mean like...
Yeah, like hair cutting.
Yeah.
You know,
and massaging. There's also a very interesting sort of genre of ASMR, which is like ear cleaning.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I know it's I quite like it personally. You know, it's a very good question. I mean, I suppose it goes back to something quite primal. It goes back to something which I think is at the core of ASMR and at the core of why people make ASMR and why people consume or experience ASMR, and that's personal attention, you know? I think we've all got an experience of being at a hairdresser, for instance, and having someone who you might not know that well give you personal attention for half an hour or an hour, dedicate themselves to some form of care. And that closeness, that touch, that sensitivity, you know, cutting around an ear, for example, and really in shoe and tree, that's a very, very, very beautiful moment, especially the very delicate cutting around the ears or the head. So I think that's something to do with it. Perhaps also, when we're babies and we cry, we are whispered to, we are touched softly. And this is something that Craig Richard, who we just saw, mentioned to me once in one of our conversations. He said that really this idea of soft touch, this idea of gentle whispering is deeply ingrained in the back of our minds. At a primal level, we really, really love it. And I think self-care, wellness, some kind of grooming, as you see in this context, is really buying into that a little bit.
Well, it's interesting that so many people are like looking for like physical touch on a digital screen, right? Because you're not actually being touched.
Exactly. And what I think ASMR is trying to do in many ways is try to imitate touch through sound and through video or through movement. And certainly there are many kinds of ASMR videos which have, for example, gentle blowing into the microphone, and usually using one of these microphones, these 3D IO pieces shaped like human ears, where you essentially hear and feel the blow. You hear the air going into your ear, and that's also testament to the kind of relationship between technology and ASMR.
Definitely. So speaking of an entirely different sense is sight and visual ASMR, right?
Exactly. Okay, I've got to get.
Should we go and have a look?
Exactly. So, the final TV chandelier that we have is dedicated to visual ASMR. Now, visual ASMR is, I'd say, a genre, maybe a subgenre of ASMR, and we have two incredible works in this exhibition. The first one here by Wang and Söderström. Wang and Söderström are designers. They are graphic designers, they're also spatial designers, they work across a multiple series of disciplines. And in this work, which is called House Without Rules from 2017, we are moving up an elevator. We're passing through rooms, and in those rooms are objects that appear to do one thing, but end up doing something else. Let's take a look.
Next one,
Something about that kind of visual movement, I don't know, it makes me feel super calm. But there's another artist that we have in the exhibition, Andreas Vannerstedt, who's based in Stockholm. If we come around here, we can see something that's maybe slightly different from what we have seen with Wang and Söderström, but definitely overlapping. Andreas Vannerstedt is a motion graphic designer. He's really dedicated to that kind of field. And he makes, among many other things, 10 or 15-second rolling clips that are in continuous movement, that loop, and that play with materiality and texture. We can see one of those works right now, called Gummitron. Oh my god. You see, what he does is he takes materials, he takes textures like stone or terrazzo or metal, and he makes them behave in strange ways. And these are absolutely obsessively watched on platforms like YouTube, but also on platforms like Instagram. And it, to me, raises this question of how limited is ASMR to the technology that it has. The frame of a YouTube video, or the square frame, or no longer square necessarily, but square frame of an Instagram video. These have a big impact on how content is made today. What I also think is really, really, really beautiful about the work of Wang and Söderström, but also Andreas Vannerstedt, is how they are playing with material surfaces, with material textures. And materials and objects are so central to ASMR. Like I said earlier, ASMR is really about everything and nothing, in the sense that triggers can be made by anything. An ASMR artist looks at a cup and they don't necessarily see a cup, they see something that makes a certain sound. There's no objective trigger, as I said, but anything can be a trigger. Justina?
Yeah, well, the internet has a question for you.
Oh yeah?
And it wants to know, is visual ASMR fully accepted as ASMR yet?
Fully accepted? I mean, I think visual ASMR it's not really part of the central definition of what ASMR is. I mean, you probably would say that the central definition of ASMR probably has to include a person. It has to include that interaction with a person. Most works of visual ASMR do not, but they are uncanny. They are hypnotic. They are meditative. And these are all very, very important attributes or characteristics of an ASMR film. So whether or not they're accepted, I'm not sure I can answer that, but I think they're definitely part of the sphere of ASMR.
Well, I just have so many feelings right now, James. And I really feel like I need an output, like an outlet. Where can I share them to someone?
Yes, you're making a segue.
Yeah.
Yes, you can share your
really?
feelings.
Where?
If we can clamber out
Show
of
me.
the sofa again. This is the most ungraceful exhibition live stream. Okay. Yes. We have, Justina, an archive of feelings.
Oh, I'm so relieved.
This has been made in collaboration with Arena, a website, are.na, if you want to check it out. And what Arena is an online archive. And so we've created something inside the exhibition called an archive of feelings that allows us to essentially put down triggers, things that have triggered ASMR in the past.
So how would that work? If I choose like a work here, for example, and then let me try it.
Have a go.
So I'm going to tell everyone what I felt when I was looking at Shoe and Tree.
Yeah.
Okay. Cute aggression.
Cute aggression.
Submit.
What was cute aggression?
You don't know what it is?
No.
It's you know when you see something that's so cute that you really want to hug it really, 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 really tightly.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's almost like an aggressive feeling.
Yes.
It happens
I don't
a lot
feel it
with puppies.
personally, but I can understand it. But that triggers something like an autonomous sensory meridian response for you.
A bit, like it's not at all calming, but I get a physical reaction like in my arms and
really?
bits on my neck. Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
I think that's why I like Shoe and Tree so much.
For sure.
Yeah.
You've been watching that a lot.
I know.
I think that's a brilliant one. And so essentially what this archive of feelings will be, it will be a website that you can go to our website, ArkDes.se. You can find a link to it and feel free to add to it, because we're hoping by the end of the exhibition in November we can start to collate one of the first completely non-scientific archive of ASMR trigger feelings. Okay, what's next?
I'm seeing something that we really, really need to have a look at.
Aha.
And it's what's on this table.
Yes. Okay. Why don't we gather some of these very, very delicately and maybe sit down with them?
Yeah.
Yes. Why don't we sit here? Okay.
So these are actually like they're making me feel a bit uncanny.
Yes. These are prototypes by Mark Tessier, a designer and an engineer. We're super lucky to have these actually because I don't think they've been exhibited before. And they're going to be under a protective shield for the exhibition, but I think they're so important to see close up actually. We have some prototypes.
Can I touch one?
Yes, why don't you touch this one? Yeah, you've had a very visceral reaction to this.
I don't know why I get this reaction, but like I even struggle with the photos.
Yes, and that's interesting because the photos, I mean, Mark's project, which is called Skin on Phone, it's essentially a phone case, right? So if you see a phone here and you see the skin surface on the back, these photos went viral late last year, and there was an extremely visceral response to these because it feels like skin. It almost behaves like skin. It's got the same kind of bounce to it, but it also has a certain texture. Now, what Mark Tessier is trying to do with this project is create a device, a case for a phone, which you can essentially scroll and interact with. So if you can imagine you have, I don't know, emails or an Instagram feed or some kind of feed, you could scroll through the feed by stroking the back of the phone.
It's actually getting a bit closer to the technology of touch, isn't it? You were talking about earlier.
That's what's extremely interesting about this project to me, is that, you know, earlier I talked about the kind of frictionless glass surface of the phone. It's a very strange and unintuitive way of engaging with the world of information that is the internet, and no one yet has really tried to make an effort towards something like this. So I think it's an extremely valuable project.
It's also very interesting because it's not something that you would consider ASMR, right? When you think of ASMR.
No, it's certainly, this is almost like an appendix to ASMR. And the one thing that we have to accept is that ASMR is so closely aligned to technology and the developments of technology. And I see this as something which, I mean, I hope, Mark, you managed to turn this into something incredible in time.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fantastic already.
But speaking of works that doesn't like make you think of ASMR, we have another work in this exhibition, which is actually Sjörapporten.
Exactly.
That's quite interesting.
Why don't we just talk about it here, because we have some audio works in the exhibition.
Oh, you're leaving them all by me. That's great.
We can put them back in a second. Are you unnerved? Should we edge them closer to me?
I think we should actually.
I'm sorry, Justina. Yes, Sjörapporten. Maybe you've heard of the shipping forecast. This is a kind of daily broadcast which talks about the maritime weather conditions. Certainly the BBC in the UK have one of these, but Sweden, being a nation with a large coastline, also has one of these too. What's interesting about this is that in Sweden, Sveriges Radio, who produces and publishes the weather report, the shipping forecast here, did a survey a few years ago, and they asked the question, do you listen to the shipping forecast for maritime weather information? And of course the answer is basically no, because you wouldn't listen to a radio broadcast, you would find it through other means today. And yet they got such a strong response from people saying, you know what, I just listen to it because it's predictable, it's dependable, it happens every day, it's the same meteorologist, who is reading this weather report, and it calms me. It reduces my anxiety, and I couldn't live without it. So it continues to this day, and it was described as a stress ball. And what was interesting about one of the comments was someone said, you know what I love about it is that I can listen to it and I don't have to care. It's just this predictable sound. And reassurance, affirmation, are very important abstract ASMR triggers, as I mentioned earlier. In this exhibition, we also have another audio work by Holly Herndon and Claire Tolan. Claire Tolan has been a really great person to speak to, an advisor to this project in many ways. But Claire Tolan has been making ASMR for quite a long time, since 2013. Holly Herndon is a musician, and they collaborated on a track for an album called Platform. The track is called Lonely at the Top. And it's a work of ASMR where essentially Claire is reassuring a wealthy client that everything's going to be okay. It's like 3 minutes of that.
That's
and
nice.
It's extremely, extremely symptomatic or characteristic of many, many works of ASMR that exist.
I feel like I want to listen to Sjörapporten.
Yeah, just tune in tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's next, Justina?
I think we should go to the thing where ASMR basically started, right?
Well, you could say that.
Which is a very familiar figure to some,
Certainly that, for
unfamiliar
sure.
to others.
You're talking about Bob Ross.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who is Bob Ross?
Okay, Bob Ross. Maybe I'm going to just settle myself down next to one of these TVs. Can you see me? Bob Ross. Bob Ross was a TV artist. And you saw some works by Bob Ross half an hour ago or so when we were sat in the studio. But Bob Ross is a really, really seminal figure for ASMR. He passed away in 1995, and he made over 30 series of about 10 episodes each called The Joy of Painting. And The Joy of Painting essentially included Bob Ross teaching you how to paint. And these paintings were often landscapes, mountains, trees. He very, very rarely painted people. And he would make these paintings over the course of a 25 to 30 minute TV episode. What's interesting about The Joy of Painting is that people who are now in their 40s today remember being a kid and running home, running back into their living room, jumping onto the floor and watching Bob Ross. Because there was something hypnotic and deeply calming about not only what he was doing and the way he was doing it, but the way he was narrating it. So you can see here we have a TV episode, which is now ending, of The Joy of Painting, in which Bob Ross was using brushing, stippling, palette knife, so a form of scratching, all very, very common ASMR triggers, to create a landscape. And we are so, so fortunate to have the first ever Bob Ross paintings that have ever been to Europe in this exhibition. So here we have the very painting that he was painting in this episode. We can have a look at it here, maybe, Johan. You see how incredibly calming that voice is, full of reassurance, full of a certain degree of authority as well, but you know that nothing bad is going to happen to you in an episode of The Joy of Painting. I can't tell you how exciting it was to receive the 3 original Bob Ross paintings that we have in this exhibition in Stockholm a couple of weeks ago, because you realize that on the TV episodes, especially when seen through one of these TV screens, does not do justice to just how bright and how vibrant and how beautiful these paintings are. Art history is an acquired and personal taste. I love these Bob Ross paintings. So why don't we continue now down past something which puts Bob Ross in a little bit of context. We're very fortunate that Bob Ross Inc., who look after the archive of Bob Ross, sent us this object. This is an award that is given by YouTube to accounts that pass 1 million subscribers. There's different levels: bronze, silver, gold, platinum. This is gold for 1 million subscribers. And that's something really important to say, is that Bob Ross was working and making The Joy of Painting long before autonomous sensory meridian response was even created. And yet his work has been appropriated by the ASMR community. It's absolutely part of ASMR, so much so that people now call him the godfather of ASMR. He had no idea. But the online following that he has found since 2014, when Bob Ross Inc. started to publish his videos on YouTube and Twitch, is absolutely astonishing. I recommend you check these out. And where's Justina gone?
I have a question for you.
Justina's got a question. So I'll come and sit down with you again.
It turns out that people are very interested in Bob Ross.
Ah.
And they have this question. If Bob Ross is the grandfather of ASMR, does that mean that ASMR isn't older than Bob Ross?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. Like I've said, I think, ASMR is primal. It goes back a very, very long way. Also, like Julia Puerio said earlier, it's definitely not new. It's not 10 years old. What we see now is a highly concentrated version. Something that you can, in fact, self-medicate on in some way. We can go home and we can pull up our screens and we can watch Bob Ross, or we can be in the workplace and it's busy and it's loud and we need to focus and we can watch Bob Ross. This is tapping into something much older, much deeper than something that was developed by the internet. But like I said, I think it's been accelerated by the internet. It's been accelerated by the speed of life today. This kind of slowness, this kind of calmness, this kind of task-oriented predictability, because that's essentially what a Bob Ross painting is. That's essentially what Shoe and Tree is. It's something happening over the course of a period of time. Bob Ross starts with an empty canvas and he ends with a completed canvas. In Shoe and Tree, scruffy dogs come in and they leave all clean and cute. This is a core thing with ASMR, and I think that we find these things oddly satisfying.
I must say, I feel so relaxed by now. I feel like I want to ask the camera team to leave so we can just stay in this exhibition and chill for a bit. Right. So this marks the end of this exhibition,
This marks the end. And in a normal vernissage, I would do some thanks. And I think I should just do some thanks now. I should say that we have a wonderful booklet in the exhibition which has silver ink on it, which you can now download from ArkDes.se, from the exhibition website, as a PDF. And there's descriptions of all the works, many of works that we haven't seen, fantastic works that we haven't seen. And my first thing would be to say thank you to everybody who agreed to participate in this exhibition, because some were skeptical, some were extremely enthusiastic, but it's a big deal for us to be able to show all these incredible works. At the same time, I just want to say a very, very brief thank you to Hatle Sigurðardóttir, the producer of this exhibition, and to the incredible build team here at ArkDes who made this happen during quite challenging circumstances. But I also want to say thank you to all the people who have been in this live stream. I want to say a thank you to Justina in particular. Justina's been an enormous help in bringing this thing together. I want to thank Joachim Hultqvist, who has produced the audio guides for this exhibition, and also has been producing a separate project that we have in collaboration with Bonn magazine here in Sweden, which is looking at the works of contemporary Swedish poets and reading their works in ASMR formats. That's launching this week.
Yeah, it's launching on Thursday.
So check out
Stay
for
tuned.
that. I also want to thank Lucia Tahan, who has developed an Instagram face filter, the Weird Sensation Feels Good Instagram face filter that you can find on our Instagram. And I suppose I want to thank you guys for coming with us on this virtual vernissage experiment. 2 weeks ago, we didn't really know what this was going to be or how this was going to be happening, but we've somehow done it, and I hope you found it useful. I hope you're a little bit more relaxed than you were an hour and a half ago. I hope you at least understand a little bit more about why ASMR is important, like why it's valuable, why it could be interpreted as a creative field. Anything you want to say, Stina?
Yeah, don't forget to use the archive of feelings and share your experiences of this digital vernissage. And if you've liked what you've seen here tonight, then look us up on your social channels and start following us, because there's going to be tons of more material with digital conversations and obviously the project that we have with Bonn magazine to look forward to.
I suppose the last thing to say is I really hope you're well. I hope that your family and your friends and your loved ones are well, and take care. Thanks.
Just gonna settle in now.